So today we're talking about 8 different ways that your feet can affect your posture. From an evolutionary perspective, our sense of proprioception comes from sensory organ systems. Our foot is something that has evolved through time and that serves the purpose to relay specific proprioceptive feedback to our nervous system, to our brain. And this is because we need to know whether or not we're being chased by a lion, whether we've just stepped on a pebble, or whether we're walking on sand or on fire or in water. Now, because of this, our foot shares a special connection with our sense of perception. And it has the ability to send conscious feedback to our nervous system, either through our muscles or skin or our joints, but also unconscious feedback to our brain. And this is really important because this is when our feet can affect our upright posture. So if your brain senses that you are unstable, then your movement will be affected, your joints will be affected, and your posture will be affected. Now, because we're talking about tonic posture, we're also going to refer to the same concept with tonic foot posture. You may have noticed that the weight-bearing surfaces on your feet are uneven. Again, an unconscious process. You're not actually aware of this unless you take a picture of it and visually look at this picture. But this unbalance has repercussions on your unconscious brain and on your tonic muscles. Now we can see from this image that the red line shows that there is torsion. So although the feet are aligned on the force plate, and this is a platform that we use in our clinic, there is repercussions that is happening at the level of the pelvis. Furthermore, if we take a closer look, we can see that the left foot has a total of 46% of the entire body weight, whereas the right foot holds 54%. So in other words, if you weigh 200 pounds, you should have 100 pounds on the left side and 100 pounds on the right side, making it 50% on each side. So a 46% and 54% reading gives us a 10% discrepancy between each foot. Furthermore, we can see that the right heel is carrying 32% of the entire body weight. What all of this translates to are imbalances. Keep in mind that and this matters because the unconscious part of your brain, your primitive brain, actually is picking up on this information and is compromising your entire posture on a daily basis. Now, because the foot is the first thing that comes in contact with the ground, it's bound to have an impact on your lower body. So your ankle, your knee, and your hip. 72% of us have a mixed foot and don't know it. A mixed foot is when the weight-bearing surfaces on your feet are uneven. So in this example, one foot pronates and the other one supinates. Because your foot is attached to your tibia and your femur through muscles and joints, one side will create an internal rotation of the bones, whereas the other side will create an external rotation. This will cause your hips to be uneven and can lead to chronic pain. Now, moving on up, the next area that you'll see compensations in is in your pelvis height, and in the torsion of your pelvis. If you're squatting with a pelvis that is misaligned, you are just working yourself out into injury. And from the moment that the angle of the sacrum changes, it either increases or decreases, then your spinal curvatures will change as well. So your foot has the ability of changing the curvatures in your spine. And we know that the nerves in the spine is what is essential to activate the brain. The problem is when you're functioning with this misalignment for years, your muscles and your fascia become adapted to this reality. And because postural habits are formed through repetition, walking around with poor posture just reinforces these imbalances in our system. And this is why it's almost impossible to reverse postural imbalances by simply working out or doing rehabilitation therapy. Now, if you continue to function with these imbalances, over time, your ligaments and your joints start to become affected. This is when you may have heard that someone just sneezes and pulls their back, or simply by playing soccer, you may rip your anterior cruciate ligament. All of these are signs of postural compensations that start to slowly degenerate over time. So in other words, the longer you function with these imbalances, the more you are continuing to degenerate every single joint in your body. Now, the sole purpose of being human, aside from being able to think logically and to speak and to write, is to stand upright. And if we are not fighting gravity efficiently, if our body weight is not properly distributed on our feet, then we are going to have asymmetry of tension between flexors and our extensors. And this will cause muscle imbalances, which will cause you to waste more energy standing upright. So in other words, if you can't move efficiently, you can't activate your neurons properly, and you may run into mitochondrial deficiency. The mitochondria is the factory cell of your body. It takes your food, mixes in oxygen, and produces energy in the body. This energy is called ATP. And ATP is kind of like an energy currency. But if you're deficient in this currency because you're not fighting gravity efficiently, this is when you may feel exhausted by the second half of the day. On a side note, mitochondrial fatigue can also go a long way because it's going to affect the energy in our cells. It's going to prevent us to repair our cells efficiently, to make protein efficiently, which is essential for the reproduction of DNA and RNA. It's going to prevent us from breaking down the waste proteins. It's going to prevent us to get rid of damaged protein, and all of those things can be affected if you are not moving well and if your spine is misaligned because your foot posture is uneven. Now, if you have joint degeneration, if you are living with pain, if your posture is misaligned, all of these postural compensations will cause inflammation, and inflammation can lead to many terrible things like heart disease, neurological diseases, arthritis, diabetes, Alzheimer's, cancer, and even some autoimmune diseases. Now, living with pain also causes stress. Stress is a natural form, a natural defense mechanism in which will cause us to clench our teeth, and clenching our teeth can further exacerbate other problems, or I should say add to existing problems. Stress under normal circumstances is a normal human reaction that happens to everyone. And the body is designed to experience stress and react to it. The problem is when it becomes a chronic stress. Chronic stress not only increases inflammation, but it can make your body burn sugar as a source of primary fuel instead of fat, when we know that the brain and the heart's preferred sources of energy is fat. It can also turn your muscles into sugar, which leads to weight gain. It can decrease your white blood cells, in other words, affect your immune system. This is when you'll see viruses that will come out of remission. It can also lead to insomnia and lead to excessive belly fat. So what is the solution? Well, if you're new to my channel, we offer programs to anyone who's interested in improving their global health, to teach you how to integrate a brain-based approach into your protocols so that you can start working on those sensory organs that have a profound impact on the way that you move, on the way that you stand. And if you're looking to specifically address your foot posture, then I would strongly suggest looking into our postural insoles.